What's up, witches, wizards, humans, and lizards? I'm Sarah.
I'm JJ.
And I'm Thyme.
And you are clocking in for The Witching Hour, a podcast where we have a lot of opinions and we aren't afraid to share them. Today, we're starting with some hot takes about book consumption before we get into the main topic. How many books should you publish in 1 year? So grab your elixir of choice and settle in. We've got a lot to share. Okay, alright. So today, I have a hot, spicy take that I would like to present to the committee. I think people are reading books too quickly.
Yes.
Yes.
I've been waiting to be able to
can I
share
go
my
first?
opinion on this. Yes, do it.
Okay. My thing is, Sarah.
Yeah.
So for something secret, haha, we had to read a lot of books, and I said, wow, this one's really long. It's 500 pages. And you said, it's not that long. You said that's
Okay.
normal.
Okay.
That's not normal. That's long.
Okay.
Back in the day, a 500-page book would have taken you 3 years to read, and now it takes you a day.
Okay, I'm
That's
feeling very
sick.
attacked right now, and I brought this up so we could attack other people together.
Listen, prime
So-
example right here in our midst. Sarah the
Okay.
fast reader.
Listen, I am a fast reader, but I am not talking about the speed at which you can read. Because here's the thing, I read a lot of thick books. The
Mhm.
speed at which I read those is not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is people who will, like, go on TikTok and be like, I read 300 books this year. Ask me about it. And it's like, how?
Yeah.
How
I
and
also
why?
agree that that's too much.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
what I'm talking about. Because, like, I read books quickly, but then I sit and I let them marinate. Like, I continue to think about them. I make them my personality for a couple of days. I don't, like, read a book and then immediately jump into another one.
Right.
Yeah,
You know
I'm
what
right
I'm
there
saying?
with you.
Yeah, or sometimes I'll read a series and make that my entire personality for years and try and make everybody read The Bone Season by Samantha Shannon. But, like, I think it's a product, honestly, of, like, hustle culture.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that it
Yes.
has even bled over into our hobbies. And at the start of this year, this is so stupid. This is such a first world problem. But having to set, like, my goal for my Goodreads, like, what I wanted to read this year, it was a little bit, like, decision paralysis. Because
Mm-hmm.
could I read 2 books a week? In theory, sure. But should I? No.
Yeah, like, would you enjoy them? Would that be, like, a
Right.
meaningful experience? And I am absolutely not saying that every single piece of media we consume should be meaningful or deep or insightful. Like, that is not
Right.
what I'm saying. But what I am saying is, if we are consuming books so quickly that, like, they're just, like, I almost feel like at that point, this is about to get too real. What are we running from? If we are if we spend every single second of our free time immersed in
Mhm.
not reality. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like, I feel like at that point,
Yeah.
you are kind of desperate to escape the real world, which, honestly, relatable. But you can't be doing that 24/7. That's not healthy.
No.
Right. Well, and I think that there's a difference between genuinely being in such a zone where you can't put the book down. And then you, like,
Right.
you finish it and you have to move on to the next one because you just have to know what happens. I think that is
Right.
a very different
Well,
story
that's so different.
than being like, oh, I just finished this one. Okay, I need to grab this one. And now I'm going to read this one. And, like, I genuinely want to know people who I have seen on my TikTok, like, let's talk about the books I read last week. And they have, like, 25 books. Like, did you
Yeah.
actually process any of that? Like, could you actually tell me something you enjoyed from each of those books? And not just, oh, I like the story, but, like, something specific.
So I can sort of come at this from both sides. I agree with you, but I will say, like, last year I had, like, a moment where my semester was very easy and work was very easy and I didn't really have anything else going on. So all I was doing was reading, and I got into, like, this place where it became like a habit, which, like, it's a good habit to have, but it's a habit nonetheless. And so I read very quickly as well. Like, my reading speed is fast.
So what are you hating on me for?
Because you said that it was like normal. It's not. Like, I still understand that it's a longer text. But okay, for everyone at home, I have to read The Witching Hour hey, shout out to this podcast. We have to read The Witching Hour by Anne Rice, okay? Sneak peek. There you go. Happy birthday. It's about 1,000 pages long. Sarah said, oh, that's easy. If you don't get
No.
out of my face.
I did not. No, not about 1,000 pages. 1,000 pages is very long.
Oh, so okay. So now it's very long. For everyone at home, I just want you to know
500 pages.
Sarah flew out to the East Coast, spit in my fucking face and said, read it, you bitch, and then left immediately after. Paid for on her own card. Didn't even use the company card for it. Bonkers. Anyway, but I do read pretty fast. But in this time period, in this era that I was in, I would read a book and go, wow, that was so good. And literally, I'm not kidding, 10 minutes later, I open my Kindle, boom, another one, and I'm reading it. And that is not my typical reading style. So what I can say is that I tested this thing that the TikTok girlies are doing, and you're both absolutely correct. It's not, you aren't really grasping what you're reading as much as if you were to sit and decompress with it and like process what you're reading. Like the reason why we remember so much, or if we were like good students, why we remember so much about the books that we read in high school was because we had to like work with them. We had to have conversations about them. We had to write about them. We had to decode them, look for symbolism, do all of this. We don't do that anyway now. Most people don't. I don't. But taking some time, a day, a couple days, a week, whatever, to think, reflect, whatever, on the book that you've read grants you access to a more fun experience, I guess, more intellectually thrilling experience with the text than if you were to do what I did, which was, okay, that was a great book. Oh, okay, that was a great book. I don't really see an advantage other than being able to say, oh, I read 70,000 books this year. And that wasn't why I was doing it. I just had nothing else to do at work. So I was reading.
So I wonder also if, and maybe this is a hot take, I don't know, but if it also has to do with the caliber of writing going down, because
maybe it's less thought-provoking. Yeah.
Well, and like not everything needs to be like sat with. Like you don't need to read 50 Shades of Grey and then sit with it for a week or two. Like, or maybe you do. I don't know. That's your life,
or
your
sit
choice,
on it.
Your decision. But I feel like when I read a really good book, like the book is so good that I have to sit with it. Like I can't stop thinking about it. And so I feel like this culture of like, oh yeah, I read 700 books in the past 2 years. Like how
I'm
many
so
of
sorry
those
for
books
you.
though? Yeah, like how many of those books like impacted you? How many of them like you sat and like wanted to read another book and you couldn't because you're still like captivated by the story that you just finished? That's not happening when you're reading 25 books in a week. So that way you can go on social media and also, did you actually read, like, be honest, Book Talk girlies. Did you actually read them? How many of them did you DNF? And you're just not saying it.
Oh, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, I mean, and that's more so with like the people with like aggressively high numbers, like 700 in 2 years, because I know some people are like that. They're for sure lying, because also those same people, the only reason we know about that list is because they make their living online, which is more than a full-time job. So you're not doing that. Sorry, you don't have time for that. I know you don't have time for that. But I will say, like, people who read like, let's say like 100 books in a year, that's feasible technically, but they're who I'm talking about here, because it's like, how are you enjoying that?
Right.
Yeah, that's really what it comes down to for me. Is it's like, what are you getting out of this besides a high number that you can share online?
And if you are enjoying it, like if this works for you, so happy for you, thrilled even. But I just feel like the way my brain works, like that just seems, one, it's unrealistic. I'm in a period right now where it's like the thought of picking up a book and reading it makes me want to hurl. Like, I don't want to. But then I go through periods where I'm like, I can't watch a single thing. I have to read everything. All of my entertainment media has to be in the written word. And those stages are not uniform. They change in length every time. So are you telling me you're not like that? You're telling me you read 100 books in a year? You're not like me at all? Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
Well, but also, like, these people, the numbers, I think, are not accurate. Because, for instance, with Spellbound, we read so many manuscripts, and when you're editing, you're reading through a manuscript multiple times. But if that book isn't out yet, you can't log that book as something that you've read toward your count. Like, it doesn't show up like that.
I did.
Oh. I've never even tried. Like, I just like, I mean, toward my personal count, like, yes, but like, I don't put it on Goodreads unless the book is coming out.
Well, I did that with Erebeth, which will be out by the time this episode is, I think.
Yes, yeah.
But I did. If you look at my Goodreads, it says that I read Erebeth twice this year because I did.
Well, I think
but realistically, I think I read it more than that.
Right. But I think that if that was a possibility for all of, for all publishers or all editors to be able to put that down, our numbers would look very different. And there would be people who kind of question those numbers, except like that is literally our job. My mom is one of the people who she's like, I read 75 books last year. I'm going to read 100 this year. Like, I get it. Okay, you live on a farm. Your biggest fear is whether a snake is going to get in your duck hut. I get it. But, like, the rest of us don't have that freedom.
Well, and that's the thing,
I want to say
too.
how many books I read last year. I'm looking. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, while you're looking, when I was in, like, high school, I would read 1 or 2 books a week. And honestly, I don't know how I was doing that. I think I just, like, wasn't doing homework. Like, because I did extracurriculars. Like, I was a busy person in high school.
Right.
But I think that these days, it's just not about the stories anymore. It's about the number. And that is something, the culture of overconsumption is so rampant these days. Like, when you see people with their Barnes and Noble hauls and they're like, look at these 20 books I bought. I'm like, when are you going to read those? Like, and people aren't rereading things anymore either. They're like, well, I read 300 Kindle books this year and I'm going to read 300 different ones next year. It's like, if you can't find a story that sticks with you enough to read it over and over, like The Bone Season, for example, like, it's like, what's the point? I get it. On one hand, I get it. Like, the amount of material out there to consume is staggering and it is overwhelming. And I understand, like, the fear that comes with missing out. But I think that social media has made that FOMO so much more present. So people are just consuming without processing any of it just because they don't want to miss out.
Well, and also, like, with that, like, endless consumption and everything, I think considering the length of the book too, like, obviously, if you're reading The Witching Hour, you're probably not going to read that in a week. But if you're somebody who really enjoys, like, essay collections or novellas, short story collections, things like that, I think those numbers being higher is more realistic because it's less time committed and there's almost less that you have to process. But, like, I'm literally, like, I just went on my Goodreads and looked at, like, my highest year of books that I've read, and every single one of these books, like, has left an impact on me. Like, I still think about them pretty regularly, and I don't know that most people could say that about the books that they've read in a year.
Yeah.
So I have found my Goodreads, and I found my 2023 reading challenge thing. And I read, you're not ready for this staggering number, I read 16 books last year.
Wait, and that was when you were in your, like, book talk girly phase of reading all the time. So
the book talk girly phase hit me late October and it ended, like, in February.
Okay.
Right? And if we're only thinking of 2023, well, that's only however long. Before that, I, like, didn't read that whole year. But either way, what I can say is that out of these 16 books, I loved, like, every single one of them. And I did apparently go back later and think about them, because every single one of these I have complex thoughts on. And, like, most of these are the books that I talked about in our rapid fire book review.
Oh, nice.
So,
That's
like,
interesting.
Daisy Jones and the Six, The Good Daughter, The Only Survivors, like, these are all, like, and then this is also when I started the Sarah J. Maas universe situation.
Ooh, okay.
So very, like, my average rating 4.3 stars. Like, I was lucky last year with the books I read. But I mean, there's no, like, shame in reading a lot of books.
No,
but there kind of is once you hit a certain threshold. I think if you've passed 90, maybe stop talking about it.
Way to go, JJ's mom.
Yeah, congrats. Shout out to my biggest fan who can read however many books she fucking wants.
Yes. Stacy's an exception. Sorry, you can bleep that if you don't want your mom's name on the pod.
Oh no, it's happening. So, like, last year, I read 30 books. And some of them were textbook and things like that for class that I had to read. But
Oh,
on
what
the
the
whole,
fuck? I didn't log my textbooks. Damn it.
well, I mean, I had to like read the full book, you know, like
Right.
they're quote unquote textbooks, but I'm getting
Yeah.
an MFA, so they're books. But most of my books last year were rereads. And honestly, I think this is probably my favorite year of reading that I have like recorded on Goodreads, because it's the Crave series by Tracy Wolff, From Blood and Ash, The Bone Season, Friends, Lovers, and the Big Terrible Thing. Like, they're all books that like I genuinely love. And I would rather see that multiple times in my like reading goal history than reading 150 books in a year that
Yeah.
I don't even remember the one that I just finished.
Well, you know what's crazy? I'm not a rereader. Like,
Really?
and well, so I am in theory. So here's my thing. I have like a really bad memory, specifically with media, and it like really makes me sad. Like, I've watched Breaking Bad, I'm not kidding, in its entirety 6 times. I couldn't tell you what happens in the middle seasons. I couldn't. And I've sat down and watched them 6 times. So what I end up doing is, once time has passed and I know I've forgotten things, I may reread something. And so in 2023, one of the books I did that with was They Both Die at the End, which is, say what you will, a lot of people really think that's a stupid fucking book, and if they really feel that way, you know where to meet me. The 7-Eleven.
The 7-Eleven.
The 7-Eleven.
Time for some fisticuffs.
I just think it's fun. Whatever, this isn't about that. But I reread it, and that was one of the first times I reread a book fully intentionally, because sometimes I do it accidentally. Okay? Sometimes I forget I've even read the book, and then I'm halfway through and I go, wait a minute. Wait
You're
just
like,
a minute.
I really liked this.
Yeah, wait. But that was one where I was like, okay, it's time has passed. I've forgotten what happened. It's time for me to reread it. And it was really fun. Like, I want to be a rereader now, but there are so many books I want to read that I haven't read yet. So it's sort of like challenging.
Well, yeah, that's always been my struggle. I remember when I was in high school or college, I think, and my anxiety was at its peak because I am an anxious girl. I made a rule that I couldn't rewatch TV shows, I couldn't rewatch YouTube videos, and I couldn't reread books. I was like, if I'm going to be consuming media, it has to be new, because there are so many things that I want to experience that I haven't experienced yet. I have since mellowed out a little. I am on medication, but I do understand that impulse of like, well, I just have to read everything that's out there. Now, here's the thing though, and this is something that I have been like patiently waiting to bring up, because no hate to the smut lovers. However, those books are like 200 pages and they are just... Yeah. They're just nothing. And I think that, honestly, and that is what's huge on Book Talk. People love their dirty little sexy books. I think that is when people are like, oh yeah, I read 500 books this year. I'm like, okay, but how many of them were like 200-page long bodice rippers? How many of them were monster fucker books? Like, how many of them? Because, okay, again, I'm not saying every piece of media that you interact with has to be meaningful. But like, if that is all that you're reading... Yeah, I am judging you a little bit. Like,
well, and I also feel like this is the problem that we're encountering with that, is that this is about to be my most pretentious statement on this podcast, and I think it will remain so for a very long time, and I'm going to say it anyway.
Hell yeah.
The people who only read those books are putting themselves on the level of everyone else, and that's unfair. Because the amount of time it takes to get through, like, a classic, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Versus the time, the short afternoon it takes to get through one of those. Yeah. It's not the same. And yet when it comes down to the end of the year and everyone's posting how many books they read, you get to say you read 500 books because you read 5 in an afternoon because it was easy. And I read 1 in 2 weeks because I had to dissect it. Like, we're not the same.
Yeah. How many people you think are going to like reach end of the year and they're like a few books short and they're going to be like, well, I did rewatch all of Bridgerton this year, and they're just going to like log those books?
I'm sure tons. I'm sure tons of people. Oh my God. Are you kidding me?
Because I will tell you right now, I watched for the first time Humans what is it? Humans, Lizards, Witches, and Wizards? Whatever. For the first time, y'all,
Wow.
I have experienced Bridgerton. Okay? First time. You know what's not going to be showing up on my Goodreads? The Bridgerton books.
Well, and you know what's crazy about that?
And you could take that to the bank.
I also just experienced Bridgerton for the very first time. And you know what's also not going to be showing up on my Goodreads end of the year list?
The Duke and I, or whatever it is.
Yeah, that won't be there. Yeah, I mean, and it's ultimately your prerogative how you log these things. It's, it's the honesty system, whatever. It also, let me be so fucking clear right now. I couldn't give less of a single flying fuck about any of this. People's lists of books they've read never have ever impressed me. I don't care because I don't care. Like, reading to me is the most intimate thing possible. That's your business, and I've got my business over here, and I like my business.
Till you find out that somebody reread The Old Man and the Sea like 17 times a year, I'm sure you would have.
Oh yeah, well then I give a fuck because you know where to meet me. Jesus, don't ever say that again.
Well, anywho, yeah, I do think it's important to clarify that we are not judging you. We don't think we're better than you because we don't read 75,000 smut books a year. Well, but we are saying, what?
We don't think we're better. We just know.
I know. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Fine. I'm not saying that I'm better than anybody else because of what I choose to spend my time doing. But I am going to say that it's not the same. I'm not saying one's better or worse. I'm just saying it's not the same. And it's very easy to pad your numbers if that is something you're interested in doing. And I do think that is the direction that Book Talk has kind of trended recently.
Yeah.
All right, fine. I'll fucking say it. I miss art. Okay? I miss when books were art.
Well, I do just want to say, also, I'm not shitting on the fact that you're reading smut. It's just that the smut I read is 600,000 words long. And you're not like me. You could never be like me. Yeah, and I just want to make that clear. And if I alienate any of our audience members, again, for the third time this episode, you know where to fucking find me.
And you know what Ty will be doing? Reading her porn on her phone like a classy bitch, not on the Amtrak.
On that note, let's get into the rest of the episode because this was just the beginning.
That's crazy to me.
I know. Well, but okay, but it's very relevant. So the reason why I wanted to talk about people reading too quickly is because I also think they're publishing too quickly. So the main topic that I want to talk about is how many books should someone be publishing in a year? As per usual, the answer is it depends. But if you ask me, and I am being realistic, I don't think people should be publishing more than one book per year for the most part. Let me tell you why. So the reason why I brought up romance books earlier is because people clearly have a voracious appetite for them. I read an article about a romance writer who was publishing on Kindle Vella, and she was writing about 9 books a year for her readers because the readers were just constantly badgering her, like, we need more chapters, we need more content, just constant, because that's what we're used to, with the TikTok and the endless feed. The TikTok. Am I 95 years old? With all of the social media apps, with just, the endless feeds and the algorithms, and like they're pushing content to you that isn't even from people you follow. Like it's just endless, right? So people are bringing that attitude into these other spaces. So on Kindle Vella, if anyone is not familiar, it's a platform where you publish in chapters and you release new chapters periodically. So I think it can be like weekly or monthly or whatever you decide. But basically, some of her fans were kind of, I don't know if it was outright or if it was just implied, that they were going to stop reading her work because she wasn't publishing frequently enough. So this author turned to AI to help her because first of all, there's no way that you're writing 9 books a year. That's crazy. So she was using AI to help her describe settings, sometimes describing like character appearances. She didn't use it for things like dialogue or the plot. She was really, you know, that was the line in the sand that she drew. She wanted all of her ideas to be her own ideas. It was still an original story. She was just using AI to sort of speed up the process and fill in holes where she was less skilled. Things that took her a longer time to write, things that she wasn't as inspired to write, she would just type in her little prompt, and then the AI would fill in the gaps. So by writing this way, she was able to satisfy her legions of rabid fans, but, you know, that's not something that she was able to do just on her own. So that is one reason why I think we should not be writing that many books, because I think, don't use AI.
But also, life is not a streaming platform.
Well, yeah,
No.
that is also something that, like, I really think we need to kind of touch on, is, like, you really should not be demanding that from human authors. Because, like, it's not reasonable. It's not possible.
Well, dare I say, you can demand all you want. Why are we giving in?
Ooh.
Yeah.
I think because it's her livelihood. If people stop reading her stories, then she's not going to be making money anymore. Because instead of publishing it as, like, full books that people can read, she's publishing it weekly. So if her viewership drops off, her money will drop off as well.
Okay, but that's not a sustainable business platform, and that's a platform that she chose to do. Here's my thing. I do agree that people are reading too fast, and I also know that fans are assholes. But I also know that you can't give in and also cannot blame them for your shortcomings. I feel like that is so irresponsible. Why am I such a hater today? Oh, I just feel like that's so irresponsible because, sorry, the AI has just invalidated all of your writing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It has, and I'm sorry, but it has, because I don't know for sure that you didn't get plot points from the AI or didn't get character descriptions from it. I don't know that. This is your word against no one's. I don't give a fuck. If you can't sustain it, don't do it. That's how that works. And by bringing in AI, you've proven that you can't sustain it and you need to find a different model, such as every other fucking author who publishes a full book. They don't do serials anymore for a reason. And also, when they did do serials, guess what? The whole thing was already written. So what the fuck?
Yeah, I think there's a novelty aspect to the serialized release, but that also sets a precedent for future works, for other authors. Like, it's just not sustainable.
Right. That's the thing, is that I am more inclined to sort of blame the entitlement of the fans over the author, but you're right in that at times, like, well, I'm always right. But I agree with you here, because I do think that the author, I'm hesitant. Okay, first, don't use AI to write your books, okay? That's out of the way. However, I feel bad for the author. Like, I empathize with her, because,
well, yeah,
like, this used to be sustainable for her, and now it's not, because the way that her fans interact with her work has changed. And that's not her fault. That's, like, a cultural issue. That's a societal problem.
This is my issue with it. Like, we'll remove the AI from the situation for now. Writing is not like any other business. If I open a store on Etsy and I am selling crocheted beanies and it takes me 4 hours to make one beanie and I work for 8 hours a day, so I can make 2 a day, right? Basic economics. Say my business takes off. I currently have a stock of 16 beanies. Well, those 16 just sold. I can restock them one at a time as they're made and people will buy them and whatever and call it a day. And then I could get super stressed out and go, okay, well, I need people to help me. So I hire people to make the beanies for me and whatever and blah, 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 blah. And then it becomes a clothing company, right?
Mm-hmm.
That is how that works. With writing, you don't, in fact, need to do that, because everyone can read what you've written. It's not for just one person. And also, they're gonna read it anyway. If they like your writing, they'll wait. And if they won't wait, they don't like your writing that much. That's just how it is. Sorry. Like, I feel for her. I really do. I empathize. But, like, you did, in fact, put yourself in the situation.
I think the reason why I don't entirely want to put the blame on the author is because when she started, it was sustainable. Like, it kind of spiraled out of her control.
Right, but she's the one who chose to keep up with that demand.
Because
she didn't keep up with that demand, sure, she would have lost some readers. But again, if they're that quick and willing to abandon ship, they were not fans to begin with.
But I think it's less about having fans and more about this was her way of life. Like, by saying, well, just write your books differently, just switch to a different platform, you're asking her to give up on her dream, to give up on her livelihood of being
No, I'm not.
a professional full-time author.
No,
Well, because
I'm
she's
not.
not...
Okay, hold on. Before the AI, how was she doing it? Was it sustainable? Was she making money before the whole, like, spiraling thing?
Yeah, she was making enough money by writing fewer books.
So what changed when that wasn't enough money? Like, what? This is what I'm saying. There's a line somewhere in here where she chose to cross and enter unsustainability and enter unethical practices. That's my thing, is that I'm not saying you have to go write a traditional book, whatever. If it was working for you and was sustainable and you didn't have to resort to using AI, great. I mean, they do that with webcomics. They do that with all sorts of different things. They do that with fan fiction. But at some point, she gave in too much. And that is her fault. And it's not saying be broken, die, to say maybe rein it in a little.
But I
think if it was
that
working before, it can work again.
I don't think it can, though. I think the platform changed. I think people, because of the influx of content onto Kindle Vella, they're paying authors less. So as a result, they need to create more.
I don't know. I feel like at the end of the day, there's other ways of making money, right? Like there's this thing we all do, which is we work other jobs.
Well, yes, but...
Like, let me say this. Here's what I'll say. I love making this podcast, right? If we had 1 million fans who are like, give us an episode every day, and we came to a meeting and said, okay, we can do that, but we have to use AI to help with editing, to help with topics, to help with this, and honestly, the AI is going to do our intros and outros too, and some of the stuff in the middle. You know what I would do instead? I'd say, no, I'm not going to do that. Oh, my wallet hurts because of that? Oh, okay. I'll work my second job. I don't know what... And also, before anyone comes for me, if it's a matter of disability, there's this thing called remote work that a lot of disabled people do. So I really there's no if and buts about this. There's ways to get around this without selling yourself out in this way. Because that's what she did. She sold out.
JJ, what are your thoughts on this?
I think she shouldn't have used AI, but I also think that people are just way too focused on the transactional side of things. Not in terms of the monetary value, because obviously if she was making enough money, but then people are like, well, we're not going to read your stuff anymore. So then she has to up it to make sure she maintains her livelihood. We don't know what her home life looks like, if she has kids, blah, 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 whatever. But I think that the way that readers and really fan culture in general is, it's I am your fan, so you owe me something.
Exactly.
And
I agree.
Yeah. And she doesn't owe them shit.
No.
Literally.
Exactly.
You don't owe them shit. And honestly, if that's how I were writing, yes, I would definitely have to figure out how to supplement my income in that, situation. But if you think that I owe you something, I don't want you to be reading my books anyways.
And that's my thing.
I think that none of us have ever had the privilege of working as a full-time author.
Right. And so
we're not
this is all
42
hypothetical.
yet.
Well, no, we are not 42. I think that's why she did it. I'm not really defending her. I'm just saying I think that she made the choice to sell out rather than give up her dream. And I can understand that. I might make a different decision. You guys clearly would make a different decision. But
well, I do understand. No one get me wrong here. I get it. I truly understand. I just do think it's deplorable. That's there, because I agree that the fans are a huge part of the problem. They might even be the biggest part of the problem. In fact, I'm sure they are. But when you give in even an inch, what are they going to do? They're going to take a mile. Yes, they are. And that's the problem here. That's what I'm arguing against is the whole giving in thing of it all. But again, like you said, I'm not a full-time author. If I was, maybe I'd feel differently about it. Not logically, no, I would not. But in the situation, maybe I would do something similar. I wouldn't. I'd hire someone. I'd hire a ghostwriter, actually, is what I would do. But
I think it's just kind of like a really nuanced discussion that, like, yeah, we're not full-time writers, so we can't really say, you know, one thing or another. Sometimes selling out works for people. Look at Coldplay. People still really like them.
do they?
What did Coldplay do?
What
Okay.
didn't Coldplay do?
Yeah, what is this?
They're
Literally,
They're just guys, right?
they peaked at Viva La Vida, and then they said, let's sell out and make everybody else happy.
I like Coldplay.
And then their music
Do you
sucked.
think Viva La
See?
Vida wasn't generally accessible to the general public? Because it was. What?
No,
I'm
I
so
just kind of feel
confused.
like Viva La Vida was like the point of no return. Like,
Okay.
I still enjoyed it as a Coldplay fan, but
I can't
that's
believe
where
you just
my
said that you're a
fanship
Coldplay fan
ended.
on this podcast.
No, I'm saying
As
like
a-
that's where
as
my
a former
fanship
Coldplay
ended.
fan.
You know, yeah, as a former Coldplay fan.
It was all yellow.
Uh,
I
you
don't
know
like
what?
Yellow.
I
I've heard
will
Yellow too
only
many
listen
times.
to the Bridgerton cover of Yellow from now on.
Oh, no.
Oh, so good. The words to that song, though, so dumb, right? But whatever. I digress.
Yeah,
Well,
please
so
digress.
actually, you know what? That is actually something that I kind of want to bring up, is that this person who is using AI to write however many books, the books aren't going to be good. But like
No.
people who are consuming that much content, they don't need the books to be good. They are reading for the romantic formula. They're reading for whatever. Like, they don't care about the scene descriptions that she's using AI to write. Like, they don't care. Like, they're just nom 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 nom. You know, they're just eating it up, whatever it is. And like, I disagree with that, but I'm just saying, I feel like there's a connection there of like,
No, I think that's actually a great point, because if you're actually reading it, you would notice, like, this doesn't sound like this author anymore. You know, like,
yeah,
you would
exactly.
notice that change, but they don't notice.
Because they don't care.
Ugh,
Or they may
Listen.
notice, but they may not give a fuck. This is what I'll say.
right.
The only type of romance that I really like interact with are Christmas Hallmark movies. Okay. And I interact
Love.
with a lot of them every year.
Okay, go
It's
off.
the same story every single time.
Yeah.
They're all pretty skinny, hot white people often. Okay. Often straight.
Sometimes
It's
it's,
the
Mario
same formula.
Lopez.
Right. And sometimes it's gay people once or twice. Okay. Here's the thing. They often use the same sets. They often use the same storylines, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. When I'm flying through those films, I'm the same as these people, where I'm like, I couldn't care less about the quality of this production, about how good the acting is. I don't even know what they're saying.
Right.
I'm here for the fucking vibe. And maybe that's what this is for them. And if that's the case, I do get it. Except I do it for 1 month out of the year. They do it for all 12.
That's what it
So-
is. That's what it is you can have phases where you just consume crap. I am
Yeah.
not judging that. But if all you consume is just this nothingness all the time, like, what are you getting out of it? There's no nutritional
also-
value.
Hallmark doesn't use AI. So get fucked.
Well, we don't know
Yeah.
that.
We would, because someone on Reddit would say it.
That's true.
I love that not only do you consume the Hallmark holiday movies, but you're also on a Reddit.
Hey! Hey! Wait a minute! Wait a minute!
Thyme said, I only do this for 1 month out of the year. The other 11, I'm on the Reddit page.
Hold the phone! I will not be attacked like this on this fucking podcast. Eat shit.
I'll meet you out back behind the 7-Eleven.
Oh my
Back behind the
God.
7-Eleven. Fuck you.
So, all right. Circling back.
Right. The episode, right. The episode.
The episode, yeah. So,
Oh, yeah,
how
the
many
thing
books
we're
should
doing?
someone? Yes, that. So yeah. So obviously, using AI is not the best way to be writing more books in a year. However, people have been using tools like AI for a long time. Some of the most prolific authors today, like Mr. James Patterson have teams of ghostwriters that publish under their name, which is similar but not the same. I'm not saying it's the same. Those ghostwriters are getting paid. No one's stealing anything. We covered this already in the ghostwriting episode. However, I did find there's a very interesting article called How Do People Publish Multiple Novels in a Single Year that will be linked in the show notes.
The actually finger is killing me.
Wait,
It's
hold on.
killing me.
Before you continue, I have a very legit question about Mr. Patterson.
Uh-huh.
And by connection, Mr. King and everyone else.
Uh-huh.
Do you think the bigger their name is on the title, the more it was ghostwritten?
No, because so Stephen King was actually mentioned in this article, and I did not mention him because I can't stand him. Oh wait, yes I did. I did mention him down here. Wait, that's so funny. So there was someone who okay. All right. Okay. Let me get back to my notes. Because by mentioning Stephen King, you have thrown me off my groove.
Sorry. Come back, Cusco.
So, I'm sorry. I love that movie. I had to stick that little reference in there.
Great film.
So yeah, so some people like Nora Roberts are just fast writers. So she has published 225 romance novels over the course of the last 36 years. Sometimes she's publishing as frequently as one novel per month. However, we have to remember, these are genre books. We can assume that most of them are pretty much the same cookie-cutter story with different names slapped on them. But it's still a pretty impressive body of work. Like, that's a lot. Like, she is working, and she has single-handedly done that.
Does that include her novels that are written under her pseudonym?
I think
J.D.
so.
Robb? Oh, okay.
I think so, yeah.
I was just curious, because if not, that's insane. I mean, that's still a huge number, but...
Do you think with that many novels that... Because they're all romances? Question mark? Do you think with that many that there are a couple that have, like, the two love interests having the same names as, like, other books?
Other books that she's written? I would guess no.
I mean, how many names are there, you know? Like,
so many.
But like how unique do you think she's getting now? Like, I imagine the first couple there's a lot of like a John here, a Marianne, and then who is it now? Zendaya, Thyme, like what's going on here?
Okay, so to answer your question, according to Google's AI, there are three. Okay, no, this is from Wikipedia. In the Bible alone, there are 3,397 distinct names. So she's not running out of names.
Is she just going down the list? Like,
I don't know. I don't know.
How many Ezekiels are there?
Boaz, Rebecca, Ezekiel.
Well, I just brought the Bible to make a point.
Sarah.
Hello?
Sarah.
Excuse me? Hello?
Multiple third women, Sarah.
Listen.
Sorry, continue.
I know too many
was
Sarahs.
Really burning a hole in my brain. I needed to know if there were repeat protagonists.
I don't know, because she was just name dropped. This article is not actually about her, but I would like to know the answer as well. I would doubt it, but you never know.
Oh, jinx.
So anyway, if we're being realistic, very few authors have the time or the means to spend that much time writing, because like I'm pretty sure that authors like Nora Roberts and Stephen King, there he is in my notes, they write full time, so 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, maybe even longer. Now, here are my statistics. According to Publishers Weekly, only 35% of those who consider themselves professional authors work at it full time. That includes everyone. That includes like the empty nester moms, the Stephen Kings. Like, there's a wide spectrum. I don't know why those are the two people that I decided, but like there's a very wide spectrum of people who would consider themselves quote unquote professional authors. Of those, even with taking that into consideration, only 35% of those are doing it full time. That is not a lot of people.
Like full 40-hour weeks?
Yeah.
But like, that's how much you have to be writing if you're going to be producing anything quickly and of substance.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense to me, I think, in the sense that not that many authors are doing multiple books in a year in the grand scheme of things. Like, when we look at all authors, it's not that many. You know what it might be? It might be about 35% of them. So that sort of checks out for me, but it is still I wonder, like, if the three of us had like infinite money,
Mhm.
right? And we were able to write full time, would we then eventually, like maybe not immediately, but after we've gotten to the groove of things, the groove, um, would we then experience something similar where we're able to knock out, like, say we're writing genre books like romance, right? Or even romantasy to an extent. Would we be able to knock out 2, 3, 6 books in a year?
I really do think it depends on the genre because, like, fantasy, absolutely not.
Mm-mm.
I could not.
But romantasy maybe.
Yeah, like if it's
Heavy on the
heavier
romance, light on
on
the
the
fantasy.
romance, yeah. Or just like genre fiction, you know,
Yeah.
just lit fic, maybe.
Or even just contemporary fiction.
Yeah, but fantasy, absolutely not. Especially not high fantasy. There's absolutely no way. It's
But
hard
could
to
you-
get one done in a year.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Do you think if you had 40 hours a week for 52 weeks, could you write one good epic high fantasy novel?
I would think so, but I don't think it would be finished after that year. You know, like
You think
there would
do you
still
think
be.
you'd have a manuscript?
I think I'd have like a first draft manuscript. I don't know that I would. I may be working on the second, but you're also talking to somebody who's finally finishing a manuscript. She's been working on it for 14 years. So,
But she's also been doing so much else for 14 years.
yeah, that's true.
She has not been working 40 hours a week for 52 weeks.
That's true. I mean, I would love the opportunity.
I know, me too.
Okay, well, how about this? Everyone listening at home, send us every dime you have,
Uh-huh.
and we'll do a year-long experiment, and we'll let you know how it goes.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll each do a different genre.
Yeah. I'll do
Okay.
horror, because I think that'd be really easy.
Okay. Here's why I would love that. Because when I was ghostwriting, my timeline was freaking bananas because I was writing genre fiction. I was writing smutty romance. And they had me pumping out manuscripts. I was writing 15,000 words a week. So I wrote my first manuscript in 4 weeks and the second one in 5. Because it was 60,000 words and 75,000 words. And I was doing that, first of all, that was too many words. But I was doing that while I was doing other stuff. Like, I was still working my day job. Like, I was going to Spirit Halloween in the morning and then coming home and writing my hockey romance at night. Like, that was my life. It really was.
Yeah.
Why was that my life? I don't know. But the books got done very quickly, but they were very bad. Like,
Right.
that's the thing, is like,
Right.
even if, I don't think I could have written faster if I was given the opportunity to write full time. Because, like, okay, when I'm like really in the groove, I can do
The groove?
I know. I don't know what's with me today. When I am like in the flow, I think that's like the technical term. I can do about 2,000 words in an hour. But like, they still need to be edited. That's I think the thing that we're missing. Like, it's not hard
Yeah.
to write quickly. What's hard is
Finishing the
making a
product.
finished book
Right.
Yeah.
good quickly.
I mean, considering most of the time the book that is beautiful, polished, whatever, has been through like anywhere from 5 to 10 rounds of edits, that's not happening if you're releasing. Honestly, if you're releasing more than 2 books a year, which still, why? I would kind of question that. Like, is the
Yeah.
editing being done? Like, what is happening behind the scenes here? Is this
Well,
worth
because
my time?
even books that have gone through 10 rounds of editing, you still find typos or grammatical errors, like
Right.
even from the big 5,
Yeah.
especially from them. So,
Well, yeah, so like, I do want to mention Sarah J. Maas just a little bit, in that when she was publishing 2 books a year, they are generally regarded as her worst work. Because as we just looked up, she published Act of War and Tower of Dawn at the same time, and I don't think anybody likes those books. Like, they're just not. I just
I
recently
do.
reread Act of War, and it took me a very long time because it was
is
it was
Akawar
just
the
rough.
last in the trilogy?
Yeah.
It's my
Yeah.
favorite one.
Ooh.
Of the 3.
Well, then maybe you'll
I-
like Tower of Dawn.
But
We're
this
getting
is what
sidetracked
I
again.
will say. This is what I will say with that. I don't read her writing because it's good.
No.
So to
No,
me,
you can't.
that's not really like, I don't know. I liked the plot a lot for what it was.
The plot is fine. Sarah J. Maas, you really are just like there for the vibes. Anyway, my point is, I don't think that you should be writing that much because it's going to be bad. And also, Sarah J. Maas, if you look at her most recent books, they're like 800, 900 pages. Like, she is not being edited anymore, which is also bad news for the book. Like,
so
the Crescent
many
City
vulgar
books.
Gestures.
Oh, so many vulgar gestures. I love the Crescent City books, but they are not good. Like, they are crazy. They are so over the top. They are so convoluted. You can tell that she has reached the point where she is too famous for people to tell her no. And while I'm having a good time, like, that's not a place that any author should want to be in if they want their books to be quality.
Right.
But again, that's the issue, right? Is it you have to choose quality or quantity, and most people these days are picking quantity. But that is also really hard to maintain if you're not working at it full time. I think that is the thesis. That is the synthesis of all of my thoughts that I have presented. Realistically, not a lot of people are going to be writing full time. If you're not writing full time, then you are absolutely not spending enough time with your books to be publishing more than one per year. And this is the opportunity for us to talk about Spellbound a little bit if we want to, because none of us are doing this full time.
No, none of us are doing it full time. And I mean, I feel like we've changed processes a lot at Spellbound. I think.
Yeah. Well, so, okay. People are not going to be writing full time. Indie authors, especially, are not going to be writing full time. That's like kind of the whole thing, is that we're independent. Like, we're doing it on our own, doing our best. And I see a lot of indie authors who are publishing like 3 or 4 books a year. And if you do the math, that means they're spending like 3 or 4 months on each book. That's not good. That's not, as someone who is a signed author with Spellbound, I have been through the editing process. It takes time. Like, the book that I am writing right now is a romance, but it also has elements of drama. Like, there's just a lot going on with it. I can't imagine trying to push that through the publishing process in 4 months. I have spent 4 months just on the developmental. Actually, I've spent like 6 months just on the developmental edit, but that's a me problem. That's not standard. That's because I am slow. But like, you just need to spend time. And like, if you're pushing the books through that quickly, you're not spending the time with them that you need. Especially if everyone involved in the process is working part-time. Like, if you're hiring an outside editor, it's very rare that is their full-time gig, you know?
Right. But also, like, I think that raises the question, too, of if you're publishing them that quickly and you're writing them that quickly and going through the process that quickly, how well do you know your story? Because, like I said, I'm on year 14 of writing this stupid thing, and I thought it was ready and finished, and then I went through one round of editing and scrapped the whole thing because I liked the feedback, but I didn't like where the story had ended up. And so like now I'm finishing that manuscript rewrite, but that's been like 6 months. And I think sometimes people are willing to skip steps in the process because they're afraid of the criticism that they will get if they go through the process.
Ooh, that's so real.
Like,
that is really real.
Yeah. I mean, I could have just put my book out there, but like I care about, and like, I mean, I'm not saying you don't care about your story, okay? But I am saying like I care about my story enough that like I wanted that criticism and that feedback. And if that meant literally tearing apart the whole story in service of what I'm wanting to put out into the world, then that's what needed to happen. But if you just want to put your books out there, there's nothing wrong with that. But maybe there's something else that you're afraid of.
You know what I am realizing, which is actually crazy that I am having this realization on air and I did not like work this into my notes at all, that the people who are writing shitty books and the people who are consuming shitty books are the same kind of people. Like, people who are not spending time on their books and not treating it like art are because they know that the readers aren't going to treat it like art.
Right.
They are just rushing to put it out there because that's what's being asked of them. No one's asking them for anything better, so they're just meeting that demand. But like, I am realizing that I'm not like that. None of us are like that. We all want to read better books and we want to read them more slowly. And if it takes time for them to come out, we're okay with that because we want the book to be good. We care about the book and we care about the story. It's not just there.
And I think that to that point, there's a fear, I think, of becoming irrelevant. Like if I don't publish fast enough, then I'm not relevant. But it's like, I mean, if I love an author, I'm going to go just check up on them every so often and be like, oh, you know what? I wonder if that book has come out yet. Or I wonder what's happening. That's how I figured out about Samantha Shannon doing her rewrites of the Bone season, because I was looking to see.
Sick of hearing about Samantha Shannon. Pick somebody else.
Too bad. But I was like looking to see when the next one was going to come out, because it's been a few years. That's like, I think that proves that when you write a good story that impacts somebody, the same goes for like Casey Bond. I love Casey Bond's books. And I just like periodically would be like, oh, I haven't like seen much from her. Like, I'm going to go look. Like, the relevancy question really doesn't matter, because if someone is a fan of your work to a degree, you're going to live rent free in their head. So they're going to think about your story, and then they're going to go look you up and see what other books are coming out, or, you know, what's the what, I guess.
What does that mean?
That means my Vyvanse is
I know, we are literally all just taking turns with the brain cell today, and I think Craig has it. I think it flew away.
Fuck you, Craig.
Yeah, it's fucking gone, dude.
But yeah, I think that that's part of the issue. So like with Spellbound, we take our time with the manuscripts because I think all of our authors view their writing as art. Like, they don't view it as like a transactional thing of, I need to put it out there because I have people who are waiting for it, and then I'm going to get money, and then we're just going to keep like doing this back and forth. Like, all of the authors there are just so passionate about their story. And I think that really probably is the difference. It's like, if you aren't passionate about your story, if you don't look at it as an art form, then yeah, use AI, write 99 books in a year. You do you, boo-boo. But I just won't be consuming that. Not even.
Facts.
Yeah.
Watch me find out The Naughty, the Nice, and the Nanny is like AI written or something. I don't think it is.
Could be.
I kind of hope it is, because I just don't want to think that a human would ever.
Oh, well, a human would. A human did.
An AI would be like, this is, as an AI, I cannot, you know.
Right?
Whatever.
Yeah.
Stop. Stop it.
Anyway, take your art seriously. I do think that, one last thing, I do think that in a way, because we are all part-time authors, part-time editors, part-time podcasters, we have a sort of privilege because we are allowed to view it as a passion. We don't have to conform to the expectations of the overconsumption, of the algorithm, of whatever else. We are allowing ourselves to take it seriously by removing the pressure of monetary compensation, you know?
Right, yeah.
Right.
Like, yeah, by deciding on our end that it's not about the money, that it is, we're doing this because we love it, we're doing it because we care. That's so freeing. It allows us to take our time. It allows us to not worry about sales. Like, do I want people to read my book? Absolutely. But is that the be-all, end-all for me? No. Am I going to try and pump out 3 books a year to meet the demand, 10 books a year to meet the demand? No, because I care more about the story than I do about making a living from it. And that's what art's all about.
Owen Wilson.
Stop.
Wow. But I do feel like, yeah, to that point also, like, you're not going to get dropped from your contract because you didn't hit your sales goal. It's more about working together as a team to get your book out there. And it's less like, we're losing money working with you. So like, what the hell
At
are we doing?
Spellbound.
Yeah, it's Spellbound. Fuck everywhere else.
Well, I mean, that's the thing is, like, I think that a lot of these indie authors who are skipping steps, who are pushing out 3 to 4 books a year with, like, just the barest polish on them, it's because they are trying to make it their full-time job. Or it is their full-time job and they can't afford to let their sales numbers slip.
Yeah, well, and I think that that's a completely, that kind of like goes back to the Kindle Vella thing. If you're doing it full-time and people are literally threatening your livelihood, like, yeah, maybe you're going to do some questionable things. Some people might sell a kidney. You're going to use AI.
Those are not the same thing.
Yeah, because I would sell my kidney way before I used AI, I'll tell you that.
I'm afraid of doctors, so I would probably use AI.
Well, a doctor's not the one taking out your kidney and giving you money for it. It's some guy named Greg. In a bathtub at a hotel.
Yeah.
So you're good there. Don't worry about the doctor. He's not present.
Okay, I'm just realizing, like, I've never really thought it through before. You can't just walk in to a surgical center and be like,
they're not
I'm here
giving
for my
you money for
appointment.
your kidney.
No, that doesn't happen at hospitals.
That happens in a hotel bathtub.
Exactly.
You
So
check in.
don't you worry
you go
about the
under
doctor.
anesthesia.
Yeah, no.
At your follow-up appointment, they give you $50,000.
Yeah, no, the anesthesia in this case is a bottle of vodka.
Girl, Girl, if it was an option to get your kidney taken out of the hospital, I would have done that already. I need money.
Years ago.
Do we have any conclusions? Do we have any final thoughts that we want to share?
Yeah, publish your shit in your own time. Who gives a fuck about everybody else's timeline? You do you. Rome wasn't built in a day, and your book won't be either.
And maybe the true thing to take away from this is perhaps the goal should not be to become a full-time author. Perhaps the goal should be to just be an author. Because when we make things full-time, they immediately become soul-sucking and not at all fun.
So
There's
true.
no such thing as, oh, you'll never work a day in your life if it's a job you love. That doesn't exist, just so everyone's clear. And if you try to say otherwise, I know you're lying. It doesn't exist. It does not. So, at least not in this capitalistic hellscape. So don't worry about that. Do your own shit.
Yeah.
And in that moment, I swear you'll be infinite.
I'm gonna get you. Hey, so this isn't gonna make sense until way later, but just know there will be a murder at the fucking Alamo, let me tell you.
What do you mean this isn't gonna make sense until later?
Because she fucking referenced fucking Perks of Being a Wallflower.
Here's the thing, though. I'm really into that shit. You guys are gonna be so mad at me when we record that episode.
I'm gonna rip you to shreds.
Sarah's
I can't
gonna come
wait.
to record, and she's gonna have a fresh tattoo that's like, I swear we were infinite.
Ugh. In that moment, we
Okay.
were infinite. Kill me! Kill me!
Like, no, in that moment, you were in a tunnel. Calm down.
Just fucking end me, please.
All right. I would love to. Let's end the episode. All right. Thank you for clocking in for the Witching Hour. To share your opinions on our opinions, you can head on over to Spellbound Publishing House's social media accounts. All links and information referenced in the episode can be found in the show notes. We'll see you next shift. Bye.
Bye.